really admire, a transformational leader, a human rights activist, and an acclaimed poet who's also the co-founder of Ushindi. Help me welcome Nafula Wafula.
Good evening. I'm having that situation you often have when you get a microphone and you're like, okay, is it on, is it off? So many eyes. So my name is Nafula Wafula, more of an aspiring poet. Writing is a means that I use to communicate my feminism. So I'm going to read a poem called Of Broken Glass Ceilings. And this poem was inspired by the women who managed to break the diverse glass ceilings in the spaces that they occupy, grassroots spaces, political spaces, and I hope it inspires you as much as it inspired me when I wrote it. Safari ya bambani machero. Safari Safari ya bambani machero. Ya bambani machero. I walk through this journey alone. I tiptoe through the darkness, through the muck, through the dark. I steppity, steppity, step. I sway, I bounce, I walk. I walk as they lurk, they linger, they stare, they plot. I march the footsteps of my ancestors, those that came before me, those that cleared the path, my foremothers whom they never speak of, the torchbearers, those who fought the battle so I can be here, so I can walk, march, journey on. I search for the truth, their guidance, their footprints in the sand. I search for my femininity, individuality, spirituality, authenticity, Black nativity, sensitivity. I search, I look, I search, I explore my sexuality, embrace, and familiarity. I measure the probability of irrelevance, and I rebel. I rebel because they fought. They fought for my relevance, my right to be me. They fought the best way they could by just being. They fought for their right to speak, to be counted, to be recognized and seen as more than just their breasts, their maternal instincts, their womb. They fought to be seen as leaders, as warriors, as equals. So I will not back down. I will not be silenced. I refuse to accept this secondary status, this second-class citizenship that you impose on me with your sexist undertones and patronizing actions. I rebel against this system, this entrenched patriarchy that seeks to dictate my womb, my words, my ability or disability, my sexuality, my body, my beliefs, my choices, that seeks to limit my leadership, silence my voice, tie my hands and cover my eyes, limit me to a life of servitude, seeking to pleasure my adversaries and smiling through it like I don't mind. No, I refuse. I rise. I gather my sisters. We rebel, we fight. I gather my brothers, those who choose to see me as a human being and not give me some secondary status, who believe in equality and a better life for their daughters, who recognize that equality does not undermine their masculinity, who understand that misogyny is not equal to relevance or improved status, that machismo is not some form of grand masculinity, that are secure in their masculinity and are not shaken by my abilities. Feminist alert! You say it, you tweet it. Sarcasm dripping, insecurity coated in disgust, and you cry, emasculation. Like my feminism is such a bad thing, like I should be ashamed, like I should cower and be afraid and be shamed, sit in a corner, hide and escape, but heck, I embrace it, I state it, I live it. I believe in the equality of the sexes, equal access to social, political, and economic rights. I believe in a just and fair world where I am not subservient to another because we differ in color, gender, sexual orientation, religion, age, whatever differentiation. I believe in equality, peace, togetherness. And if you believe in the same, raise your hand and be counted. Join the march as we stated. Make a statement, embrace it, acknowledge it, and not just when it favors you, but every minute. Act like it, live it, epitomize it. Every day, own it, own your life and your role in actualizing it. Shout it, then I will not journey alone, because you will be there. And you will not walk alone, because I will be there. And before you know it, we are a movement, undeterred, undefeated. If you own it, you give others the permission to own it, to be it, to embrace it. So come, let us walk together, let us journey, let us cross this finish line. Together, let us win. Thank you.
And now, without further ado, I'm sorry, I'm also stepping in for Adele. I know you're wondering why the MC is changing, but I know we're going to do a very fantastic job with Jane, who's our co-MC for today. So help me welcome our keynote speaker for today, a feminist, a women's rights advocate, and a transformational leader, Ambassador Caroline Vicini. Help me welcome her.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Caroline Vicini. I am the ambassador of Sweden, and the reason why I'm here is really because Badilia Africa is supported by a Swedish organization that we fund called Forum Civ, and it's an umbrella organization that funds a lot of CSOs in Kenya and many around women's issues, democracy, good governance, etc. So that's why I've been invited here, I believe, tonight. But I have been in Kenya since August 2020, and I had the opportunity to be a part of the elections There was a lot of work, as many of you were probably involved in, also behind the scenes, from different organizations, from the churches and the religious leaders, from the international community, in ensuring that the elections were free, fair, and peaceful. And as an ambassador, I've had many chances to meet female candidates who have shared their experiences of vying and being female politicians, and the amount of violence and criticism and mistreatment on social media, etc., that they have had to endure. But I've also met a lot of election officials. I was an election observer myself in Kilifi and spent 3 days during the elections around in Kilifi, north to be exact. And no? Ah, yeah, there. Here it comes. And spent also a lot of time with election officials, which were my personal heroes in the last elections. These mostly young people did a fantastic job under very, very difficult circumstances. I also, of course, met the party agents, how were out there, and was with them both during the election day and the days past. And all the way, I used to say I was all the way into the bomas. I left when the chairs start flying because an hurt ambassador is never good for the bilateral relations. So, but I have to admit that I have not thought of or met the women around the candidates that do the heavy lifting to ensure that their candidate win. The candidates that, or the election workers that we saw in this film. And it is a group that is hard to reach who is not Kenyan, because to be to these election rallies is usually quite difficult when you are not a Kenyan. I mean, you don't really belong there, particularly because of their violent nature often. So we know that here in Kenya, elections and also the political game leading up to elections are marred by different levels of conflict, which often turns into political violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, and online violence. It's also a very transactional game where money and favors are exchanged between the political elite and between the candidates and the voters. But I always ask myself, you as Kenyans, don't you want this to change? Do you want to have politics this way? Is this the way you want to see your democracy? Should not all citizens, no matter their social status, ethnicity, income, gender, and age, be able to feel safe to participate in the democratic processes? As a mobilizer for a political party or a candidate, or a voter, or as a civic educator, should you not be able to decide that you want to join a political party and vie and become one of the candidates in the next election without the need to pay millions and millions of shillings to make it possible? I really think that the culture, the political culture here, and the way the elections are managed and the election campaigns are done, it's really a responsibility of every Kenyan. I think none of you can stand beside and say, oh, it's them, it's not me. I think when you mobilize and you make these politicians feel adored, and maybe they are not at all. This is a form of manipulation that is taking place, and I think we saw it in the film, where these women really said, that they got nothing out of it. And what struck me so hard in this film was the material difference between the MPs and MC who spoke and the female mobilizers. These are people of different social strata. And those who went on to become politicians probably are richer today. Those who were the mobilizers are at the same level or maybe poorer. And this is a fact that everyone knows. And everyone is participating in this game. I think these women who are mobilizers, and I really admire what they did, they could, in their chamas, in their self-help groups that you helped to organize, really could work as civic educators. And they could educate the community around the electoral process and maybe even agree that we don't participate in this type of games. We don't come out when the candidates come. Because my question is, when does a good candidate turn into a bad politician? I would say the day after the election day. I highlighted this in a speech I made to young people the other week. And that the past has really shown that the short-sightedness of selling your vote for a minor sum that, as one of these ladies said, put food on the table that day, meant that you would be discarded and disregarded for the next 5 years. And that calculus, is that really a good calculus? I'm not convinced that any Kenyan believes so. I think the change you want to see in Kenya and that we have seen expressed today has to come from within. And I want to appreciate Badilia Africa, who has taken up to your mission to harness and leverage the voice and power of Chama and young women in Kenya through the civic engagement, evidence building and partnership to influence and effective political leadership and governance. And I can say I've worked in many countries around the world, some far poorer than this one, some much richer. And politics do not have to be as politics are in Kenya. It's not a given. It's you who can change it. Thank you very much.
Let us appreciate the ambassador once again. Those are very powerful words that challenge all of us in terms of appreciating exactly what this docu-series or this documentary has shown us today. My name is Mule Musau. I'll be handling a session, a very short session, which is coming right now. And then that is before the closing speech, which is going to be delivered by Honorable Milima Bona, who I understand is in the house. So as they set the stage, I'm hoping the people who are going to set the stage very quickly are going to come over to help me through this. I think we need all to reflect on this documentary, because for me, and that's a question I'm going to be posing to those panelists who are going to come over, the first thing that has come to my mind is that we talk about elections and we talk about political processes, and there are processes that seem not to be mentioned. We never talk about the process of the becoming, the process that we go through in terms of somebody deciding that they want to participate in an election, how they go about in the communities and soliciting for that particular vote. We never ever discuss that. And this is what Badili Africa is bringing to the fore. And it brings to the fore two strong things. So we have a beautiful story of how women can be powerful within the political process, but then you also have a tragic story of how they can be manipulated, how they can be disposed of, kama tissue paper, vile tunasema kama tissue paper. Ushamalizana nao, ushakuwa mbunge, umeenda zako, and the story is forgotten. So I think those are points of reflection, and the challenge that the ambassador then is throwing to us is in terms of how then do we become a better society that appreciates that we must treat each other with respect, equally, and everybody should be able to get a chance, whether they are women or not. And the kind of culture that we also have to change. So I think these are reflections that everybody is going to be having, and I think that's the intent that Bina Maseno and the entire team in Badili was having in terms of casting such a docu-series in front of us so that we're able to reflect. Please help me to welcome the following strong women who are going to reflect. It's going to be a very short session. It's a reflection session on the docu-series, assisting all of us to go through that process. So assist me in welcoming the following 6 strong women who are going to be sitting in these seats in front of us. Domi Yambo. Where's Domi Yambo? Domi Yambo sits in the Coalition of Violence Against Women and Politics in Media. I've known her as a media person for a very long time. Is she in the house? As she comes, assist me in welcoming Beatrice Nderi. Beatrice Nderi is the head of partnerships in the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. Na sijui kama hizi viti zitakuwa kama ile stool ya inaitwa ya bar. Wanaita nini? Sina tabu. Utawezana. Asante. Okay. Then we are going to also welcome back to the stage Nafula Wafula, who just recited a very beautiful poem. Beyond the poetry, she is also a human rights activist and a co-founder of Ushindi Empowerment. Karibu sana. And then we also have one of the stars of the documentary, one of the leading acts of that documentary, Mama Yao, Caroline Awuor. So Caroline Awuor is one of the people who were featured in that film. She's been a political mobilizer. Na ananyanyuaga wanaume huko nje wakileta shida kwa siasa. Karibu sana, Mama Yao, Caroline Awuor. Then we're going to have Honorable Waithera Chege, who is a sitting member of County Assembly. An exemplary leader by honor right. I think the last time we were having a session with her, she had initiated a number of bills within Nairobi Assembly, which are very progressive. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa. And lastly, we're going to have Winnie Nyandiga. Bina introduced her as the first female student lead in Masinde Muliro University, and she's also the regional leader of 100 Million. Karibu sana. So that will be my team. Let's wait for Caroline, Winnie, sorry. A round of applause as she comes down. Karibu sana, karibu sana. Just hold it so that when I ask a question. Okay, so my team is full. So like I said, it's going to be a very short session. See, it's very easy for the man to be able to climb on this. So there's something wrong about even the entire structure or issues again. So we're trying to deal with all those as we move forward. So I'll ask only 3, as there are going to be only 3 rounds, so that we can be able to make it very short. And then we can also be able to welcome the final speech. So the first is just going to be reflections. Kila mtu ameona that film, umeiona. Caroline umekuwa kwa movie yenyewe. So just your quick reflections, kama labda kuna kitu moja ungetaka kuongezea, kwa sababu tumesikia ile ilikuwa umesema hapa mbele. So do you want to add any other things, and then we can come like this, everybody just giving their quick reflections on what they obtained, or the first thing which comes to your mind when you see that particular film. So Caroline. Could you enable the mics, all of them? Just use this.
Okay, sorry. Good evening, everyone. As you have all heard, my names are Mama Yao from Embakasi Central, and I'm so happy to be here. While I was watching the documentary, I was seated over there, I was just crying when my fellow mobilizers were talking. I was crying. I don't know even what to say, but I know we have our able leaders here. My role model, Mili Mabona, is here. I saw Mheshimiwa Jeremiah. I'm so happy to see you. I know you have watched and you know whatever we go through back in the community. Thank you. Please, please, please. And I will repeat again. Please, waheshimiwa, you've all heard and see whatever we go through. Please, msitusahau. Mtukumbuke. Juu wengi wetu, we are single parents, tuko na watoto. Na watoto wetu wako able kabisa. Na ni watoto hata ni werevu kwa mashule na nini. Mtukumbuke, kama ni story ya basari, mimi naweza sema nimepata kama mara moja, nimepata mara kadhaa. Lakini kuna wengine huku back at in the community, ni ngumu kuwafikia. Tafadhali, tafadhali, sisi ndio macho yenu kwa ground. Sisi ndio masikio yenu, sisi ndio miguu zenyu. Please remember us. It's not easy. It is not easy. Tunapitia mengi sana. Na tuko hivi tu, maisha zetu hazichange. Maisha yetu hazichange. Please, sina mengi ya kusema, nikisema mengi ninaweza choma ama nitalia more.
Thank you very much. Mpigie makofi. Beatrice, what comes to your mind? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. That's all I can say for today. Congratulations, Badili Africa, for this milestone that you have been able to achieve. And for me, what I have been left feeling now is that women, what is our percentage in terms of population in this country? What is it? Yes. And I am representing here the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and we have 90 registered political parties in this country. The membership of that register is 24 million. So if we are 24 million, that tells you women should be how many? More than men in that register, right? But when you go to the statistics, women are only 33% of that register. So what are we doing to ourselves? Honorable Sheng has just told us that there's no election that can be won in this country if the women don't want. And the candidate who wins the elections is the one that the women have identified and have decided is the person to win. So I feel like we are not doing our part, and it's the time we wake up. The other thing is dynamite.
I'll come to that. Let's just reflect the first. I'll come back because I know you're going to talk about political parties and
Yes.
how we can be able to use them. So let's just get the reflections, and I'll come back to you.
Okay, quick
Nafula.
reflection. I think first of all is just to recognize the power that women have. And I'd just like to ask us to give a big round of applause to those queens, because that's what they are. Yeah. Because they are queens. They make these kings, but they are queens. And so for me, was first of all was to recognize the power, and it just made me shudder as I was watching and listening, because I was like, how beautiful would it be if they recognized that power themselves? And the second thing, I think, was just recognizing that the enemy is patriarchy. And as we speak about bottom-up politics, it feels like patriarchy is also bottom-up. And I hope we can get into that discussion a bit more.
Thank you. Honorable Sheke.
Thank you. My name is Waithera Chege. I'm the Deputy Minority Leader, Nairobi County. I'm elected by the residents of Nairobi South B. I'm now going for my third term. I want to say that I'm a product of the work that has been done by the women mobilizers. And I'm also a product of the women movement in this country, where we started way back from Akina, my friends there, Josephine Ojiambo, Millie Odhiambo. We have been in the same movement. And therefore, I have a better understanding and the reality on the ground about what these women are to politicians. And I think I have done a lot of my work. I'm the one with the leading bills in Nairobi County, especially targeting on gender percentage, and more so about women occupying these spaces more than anything. Asante.
Yes, thank you, Mule. For me, quick reflection. Again, just affirming the power of women. I'm very politically active, and I do know the power of women. And so what this movie, rather the screening, has affirmed again to me today is the powerful role that women play. If you have a politician saying, without women, I wouldn't have made it. But every time I keep on thinking, how comes women do not recognize the power that they have? Because they are driving the political activity. So which makes them a critical part of the political system. But the question is, but does the political structure system recognize political women mobilizers as critical people? That's my reflection.
Thank you very much. A clap for that first round. So in the second round, I'm going to be much more, I want you to get much more specific in terms of some of the areas that some of you are working on and how that can be able to address the problem that we are dealing with right now. And because Winnie, you're the one who's having the mic, let me start with the question of, you've been a student leader and you went through this particular process. The first female, did you know that? The first female student leader, president.
When the vote was 1 man, 1 shilling.
And she has just said 1 man, not 1 woman, but she still won somehow. But anyway, so you went through that process. Is it a similar process that the mobilizers are facing? And then how have you been able to manage and get over to the process?
I feel like that's a challenge for me because right now I'm thinking, do I still keep in touch with the people that mobilized for me? Because you can imagine for a woman to win that kind of seat. Of course, I had political mobilizers. They were students, but they were political mobilizers. So in terms of what I am doing right now, I'm not in the student leadership space anymore. But once in a while, I try to work with Badili to still come back and mentor young women. I know after me, I have mentored a few that came and they won. Others didn't win. But one thing I have learned is I want them to reach the ballots because, you know, it's a journey. You don't get it at the university level, but you will be the MCA tomorrow. So what I'm doing is I continue to share with women in the journey of leadership. I have experiences. I was a protege mentee for Millie Odhiambo before I started. So I have been with her in the trenches. And, you know, when you work with a politician, you are there with her, you see how she's campaigning. I believe, you know, by default, you tell them the secrets, how they can go around it. I'm also aligned with ODM by default. And so I definitely also know the political party politics. It's very intensive. I know for women that if a political party endorses you, that's 60%, 70%, you're done. I know in ODM today, if it's still strong, I still need to go back and look. If my party leader says we need Tosha, we know how it works. We know how the political system works. So helping women to navigate the politics in the party, that is what I do. But I also want to say that Apart from that, my day-to-day work is at the international development space. So one of the things are very development partners to come on board and support women so that we can have more women in leadership and not necessarily in politics all round.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A round of applause for her. And in case ODM is not working very well, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni is here, and I know he can be giving you options. Let's talk to Waidera, the Honorable Waidera. You're working, and I know for a fact that you're a leading light when it comes to bills within the county assemblies. But you've heard the stories of the mobilizers and the challenges they're going through, and I know you also went through some of those challenges. How are you helping create that linkage between yourself, those mobilizers, and their asks, because there are very many?
Number one, I'm elected in an area that is highly occupied by informal settlements. 85% of the geographical area is a slum area. And therefore, the highest number of my women mobilizers come from the informal settlements, where they definitely live below $1 a day. And one of the things that's very key and has been very key in my manifesto is on the issue of women empowerment and youth engagement. But when you come back to the county government, there are no such funds to deal with the issues of women empowerment. And therefore we are left in the hands of our area members of parliament, because the functions of the county government does not entail using our funds. The only funds that we have been requesting the National Assembly to pass is the issue of Ward Development Fund. And you remember the debate at the Senate and at the National Assembly, where sometimes maybe my friends from the National Assembly feel like if the MCAs are given WDF, maybe they'll be more empowered and they'll be looking for bigger seats. So there have been a big fight about the budget making process is a unique function that's given to both MPs and MCAs. And as far as I know, if every county and every governor agrees to implement the issue of the Ward Development Fund, then we'll be able to pick some of the things we want to do to empower women and to empower the youth. If you look at Nairobi County, for example, this is a time we've just passed a law to allow the governor within this county to give the WDF to the MCAs. What other governors have been doing has not been within the law. It's not anywhere in the law. So women mobilizers play a key role, especially when we are running for these positions. But when we come back to asking ourselves, what do we have to do for them, to appreciate them? You realize that not unless we go back now to our pockets, there is nothing enshrined in any law about how to help our women mobilizers. But politicians who understand the journey and the role that these women play, we always have to go back, sit down, and look for things to do with them. I want to thank Badidi Africa, because I've participated. I've been a member participating in their women meetings. They have been meeting women from the grassroots, and I've been a member. I've interacted with those women, and they have listed some of the things they would want done by politicians. However, there is a thin line between when you're in office and when you're out of office, because that's when reality hits. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate her. So Nafula, you're in the human rights space. You've listened to those women. Many of them, marriage is broken. Some of them need even psychosocial support. There's gender-based violence and all that. What would be your reflections in terms of how that needs to be handled, and some of the other issues which perhaps are underlying, have not really been brought out by those particular women, but also need to be tackled?
So I think, first of all, the language needs to change. Women mobilizers are a part of the political power system. They are not acknowledged. Therefore, what they should be receiving, with respect to Mheshimiwa, is not appreciation. It is what is owed to them, because they broker power relationships between the communities and the political leaders that end up taking office. And so, unfortunately, how the narrative is built is that women mobilizers are then taken as an afterthought. Okay, fine, maybe we should give them like a bursary, or a project, maybe a tank somewhere where they can start up. That's not it. They're a part of the system. And they should have negotiating power within that system, and they should be acknowledged. And therefore, I have a problem with our laws and our policies. And the fact that the act safety is also at risk. I think it's first recognizing their role, and that needs to be anchored in policy. And them having negotiating power, I think one of them is what they suggested, we can organize. And I think them self-organizing helps because they have higher negotiating power. And my hope is that because we have people in this room that are in spaces that can begin having those conversations, is that an acknowledgement of their role is anchored in law or in policy. Only then can we start talking about security and what security means, offering them more security, offering them psychosocial support because it has been budgeted for within the political parties. We also have to recognize, lastly, that at the end of the day, I know there's a conversation around, are they brokers? Is it transactional? Or are they doing it because they want to do good for their community? I think it's both. At the end of the day, you need to put food on your table, but they still do have interests of their communities at heart. So I think there's a lot that we can do as well to be able to pull out that power, make them first recognize the power within, and then utilize that power so that when they're speaking to these politicians, they are negotiating not just for themselves, but for their communities. And how I would love to see them being nominated, because then they would be recognizing or representing the issues of grassroots women.
We're supposed to be out of here at a particular time. So now I'll take those as some of the closing remarks. Beatrice, you're working in the political parties. And you've talked about how political parties are important for this particular process of empowering women. But how easy is it for women to be able to participate in those over 90 plus political parties? And how can the office of the registrar be able to assist them in the process, especially these mobilizers? And I've worked with them. I know they keep saying it's not as easy as it is spoken about as in the paper. So how you do facilitate? How is it facilitative, that office, to the women who would want to aspire and participate in political activities?
Okay, as a regulator, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties have targeted capacity building programs for women. And what we are urging women is to join these political parties, because again, we are not able to capacity build the women who are out of political parties. And in each political party is now mandatory that they must have women rigs. And it become easier now to identify the women to be capacity built in each individual political party, because through the women leagues, now there are structures. And also, we are urging political parties, and it's within now their constitutions, that in every organ within those political party, there must be a woman representative in every organ within the governing structures. That is the internal dispute resolution mechanism committee. And through those, women are able to champion for their agenda. And because now, as an office, we cannot reach every woman within this country, through those structures of political parties, we believe that we will be able to reach to each one of them. Our aim is to institutionalize political parties. We want to move from individualization of political parties, and we want Kenyans to come out and own this political party. Just the same way you see the Office of the Registrar of Political Party is a public office, even political parties should be institutional of democracy and governance. And we own them as Kenyans. And through this, I'm sure we will be able to even make sure that everyone is enticed to belong to a political party, and also to champion the agenda of everyone, including the youth, the people with disability, and women in particular.
Thank you very much. The last one will be kwa Mama Yao. Mama Yao, in this particular panel, umesema kwamba you've been part of the process, but it's been much more unafanyia kazi wanasiasa. Je, wakati umefikia nyinyi wenyewe kuwa wanasiasa wenyewe, how do you become a queen, not the king? We are making the kingmakers. It's a kingmaker story. Can we have a queenmaker story? Na nyinyi mnaweza anzisha, kwa sababu Nafula amesema kuna mikakati ambayo tunaweza tumia. Mkajipanga mpaka mkaweza kuchaguana wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Is that possible? Na kama kuna kitu kama hiyo mnashaanza kufanya?
Kama saa hii niko happy sana kwa sababu kwa ward yangu mimi nasimama kama chair lady wa ODM. Na siogopi kusema mimi ni mwanachama wa ODM na navai kiti ya secretary wa ward yangu, chair lady. Na nitapigana, najua niko na wenzangu wako kwa ground, na nitapigana, na vile niko hapa mbele yenu, mimi ni team bad girls. Amilo gesa mheshimiwa, nataka ukifika pale mbele waambie Mama Yao strong lady Caroline Awor yuko kwa chini kwa nini ward, nipiganie, hata bibi nataka nifike kule juu kabisa.
Asanteni sana. A round of applause for these very strong women who are here. Thank you so much for this. And before, as I hand over to the next speaker, just one person, mtu mmoja hapa zungumze, atupatie pia reflections zake kabla tuja invite Mheshimiwa Milly Babona. Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, atupatie tu maoni yake kuhusu what you have been able to see. Even as, but you can speak from there. I think we can be able to bring the mic there.
Asante sana yangu, no, in English. Let me say that I am impressed. I have learned as a member of parliament, and some of the things that I've seen, they have now sunk. You know, mambo mengine, I don't know, too much. There are things that you do or happen around you, and you don't get to appreciate them. And that has happened to me tonight. The next thing is sitting in a political party's office. There is something that can be done, I believe. The issue of nomination has been mentioned, but more than what the documentary has shown us today, these mobilizers, there is another thing that you achieve that Kenyans need to know. After you've made members or your political kings, members of parliament, members of the county assembly or governors, you enable political parties to attract more funding. So mobilizers have a heavier impact than what I've seen on the documentary. Because there are political parties that are almost getting 1 billion shillings a year because of the work that has been done by those ladies. So if the political parties were to be invited into that space, and they don't need to be invited, they only need to appreciate that they cannot do what they are doing if the women down there didn't do what they did some couple of years or months earlier. So as I sit in my political office from time to time, I know there's something that needs to be done. For the register of political parties, rethink of those programs, because the way you get political parties to use the funds, you leave out these mobilizers, and you do not need a law. You just need to sit in office and come up with a policy. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. And now I want to hand over the program back to Jen and yatuitie mgeni wa kumalizia shughuli ya leo.
Thank you very much, Bwana Mole. Now, the other panelists, we had a very nice discussion, and I know you have learned a lot, that women should be stronger than before. Isn't it? Lazima tukue watu wa nguvu. Nikisimama hapa, before I call our honorable, mimi kule Kawangware mnajua it is yenye imehost State House. Isn't it? Ni kweli ama si kweli? Ama mjui? Kawangware ni Dagoretti North. I have been empowered by Badira Africa kwamba a woman